you have arrived in the convening where we are to speak about matters with one of our cherished elders, a wisdom keeper, cultural gatekeeper, a queen, a warriorship. I align with her in shared kinship works to speak on the matters of blood seeks blood, genealogy, family history, restoration, binding our family ties as community as well, healing. Yes. Welcome to the Black Women is God Genealogy Workshop 2020.
Regina, I gotta back up on that because one thing that led up to it before I tested, Brett Cook, a muralist, he did my mural and he put it up at the Infirmary Park. But before he started, he interviewed me. You know, he wanted to know about the Black Panther Party, and I'm one of the founders of the Breakfast for Children program. And me and some sisters from Berkeley High School and Charles Bercy. And, you know, although the leadership gets credit, but, you know, it's all right, it's all right. And, and so he asked me, he said, what's your most pressing question? And I said, well, you know, who am I? And where in Africa did I come from? And so at the top of the mural, it had that statement. And then the community, one of the Black Family Days from Hodari, Black Family Days down there, they helped paint it, you know. And so fast forward, after now 2 years later, I'm DNA tested. You know, my granddaughter gets me to test.
Yes.
I have these two anonymous people. CC Moore calls me and said, you know, start adding me about my father's line. This was after, you know, she wouldn't tell me who it was because it was a very sensitive issue.
Of course.
And so then, you know, come to find out, it was none other than LL Cool J and his mother. And so his mother and I turned out to be first cousins.
I saw that episode.
I didn't know she was existed.
Yeah.
You know, she was adopted. You know, in the 1940s, they were young. You know, anyway, and so I was able to get some of my first cousins on my father's side to test.
Yes.
And so we had about 8 people to bounce off of, because you know how the DNA trickle down. You may get a gene, but I may not. You know,
yes,
so
exactly.
They
DNA
were able,
is random. Yes.
Yes, very random. But we were able to determine my Uncle Christy. My Uncle Christy had a daughter, and whether he knew or not, who knows? You know, that whole generation is gone. But that totally blew me away. And the show set up a family reunion.
Yes, yes.
And so I was at school one day. I have to tell this story. I was at school one day and I looked at the phone. Somebody was calling me. I'm like, okay, here's one of those robocop, you know, robocalls.
Yes, yes.
And he said, is this Joan? Hi, this is Todd. I was like, Todd who? Like, oh, that's Todd. And so fast forward, we met on the set, and I was able to get most of my Lewis cousins down there to meet, and everybody was just in tears. And he was really blown away because CeCe Moore told him, you're related to a boxing family.
Yes, yes. And everybody knows that song. Mama said, knock you out.
Okay.
Yes.
And then on his third album,
yes,
he's sitting there, you know, posed with a Black Panther.
Yeah.
With the red and green, red, black, and green, and the black in the background. Little did he know, you know, at the same time we were out here fighting. Yeah.
But also,
and so here's that blood memory.
Yeah, but also too, Sister Tarika, you know, one of his famous hits, rap hits, was Mama Say Knock You Out.
Yes.
And he was, you know, in the setting was a boxing ring. That one remarked me. I saw that episode, I was screaming the whole time.
Yeah. Because he's a boxer.
Yeah, he's a boxer. So I also knew at that time, through the stories that you would share with the community about boxing history in your family lineage. So for that to have coupled along with the phenomenal works of C.C. Moore, not only did you have the DNA, but you already had the family history. You had the story. You knew what lineage, what line. You had the photographs to bring it all forward into story. And more importantly, that was his mama's people.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? That was his maternal side. She was adopted, bless her soul. And the folks, I think it was the Jollies it was associated with.
Yes.
Got the Caribbean name for me. But nonetheless, she got to know in a very real way blood ties that was connected through not just your DNA, but also the work you did with your genealogy. So we like to encourage that. That's why family history is important. The genealogy and the DNA results go hand in hand. One does not stop the other. That was phenomenal. That was phenomenal. Story, phenomenal. Yes.
And for C.C. Moore, I mean, I was going through old records and old phone books trying to find anybody with a last name Jolly, because that information didn't show up on her birth certificate.
Sure.
So she was able to find her, find her mother who's living, and they have a relationship. That's she's cute as she could be too, and still has she's in her 90s now.
Yes.
Yeah, she's in her 90s. Bless her heart, to make that connection. But I got a chance to work with C.C. Moore, and also to learn from these researchers in Utah at the Mormon Temple. And there's one in particular, he said, we're going to stick together because I had relatives who worked on the Underground Railroad, and they were conductors, and he found some of mine that were on that same line in like Chillicothe, I hope I'm saying it right, in Ohio, that actually built a city from the ground up. And that was one of the points along the trail. And so all these little stories, it's just, there's more to the story.
Sure,
way more to the, I'm just touching on the surface of it, but the whole adoption thing, and there's many of our, our children who have been adopted or who are in foster care, who don't have that information. I even have one cousin who's a test tube baby.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he wrote me, I haven't heard from him in a while, but his name was Bonin Florin, something like that. And he wrote me back. He said, well, I'm a test tube kid. I just want to know about, me family members. A test tube kid, right? So there's a lot of kids in foster care.
Yeah.
I've helped, reunite dads. I had one cousin who didn't know who his father was. And I kind of figured out, okay, the amount of DNA, and also who he matched. Like on Ancestry and on 23, it will have your shared matches. And so you may have fourth cousin you didn't know nothing about. So they call that like triangulation. Like if they match this person and this person is just on your maternal line, or that person is just on your paternal line, you can kind of figure out where to look, so you're not overwhelmed and all over the place. And so the more people who test in your family, the better. Actually, if you have a grandparent who is still alive, buy them a kid. I said, go with matter of fact, go with Ancestry or 23andMe. Do both. And around this time, they have dropped the prices, so they're a little cheaper. Get them. Yes.
I want to add to that. So a couple of things, because there is homework that is for our viewers or anyone viewing this particular presentation at any time, because this is ongoing work and it's lifetime work and it transcends generations. and it is our birthright as well as our responsibility. And so one of the things that I want to encourage that we are doing is first collecting the stories. And,
Yes.
you know, the fundamental way is certainly writing down the names, but if we can begin to write them in order of a tree, using, you know, the standard family tree template, a couple of things in and around that. You can make that how you want to, specifically starting with your name and then your grandparents' name. To genealogical standards, they usually have the paternal on top, but I flip it. That's just Regina, and it's for some ancestral honoring the divine mother principles, and it works for me. But it's ideally with the paternal on top and then the maternal, and then who his parents were, who her parents were, and who their parents were. And so it's almost like an inverted pyramid. When we begin to start collecting those names represent codes. I'll often hear about the slave master names or so on and so forth. I've always identified them as codes. A lot of times, you know, when some of us were free, we did not take the enslaved name. We made up names like Freeman and so forth, or added what we wanted to it. That part. And then also we do have some people who repatriated back to Africa, or the loyalists of those who escaped to Nova Scotia. We have those folks too. Or we have free people of color, not just in New Orleans, but in the Virginia area, in the New York area, you know, in the Dutch name, in Harlem, in the Seneca community of the Africans that were there in upper New York. We have that too, but it begins starting in your own backyard, as my grandfather would say, with your story. And so a lot of our scholars and leadership, much like, you know, how we're speaking, is saying about your story. Miss Shelley would say, your story is actually your history. So your history is what she would actually say. And that starts with you, your name, your parents. Now, if you are adopted, and I feel like that people who are adopted are folks of special commissions and angels, and once they start invoking memory, you can know how you want to know. And we've seen some reality shows that reflect that demonstration, but we've seen it right here in the Bay Area. I certainly have had some pretty phenomenal experiences with members of our community. We never have known that they were adopted, but certainly under covenant between them, myself, and God. They have found their parentage and their lineage and have been able to progress, you know, that ancestral atonement forward. And so again, starting just even with drawing on a piece of paper, charcoal, and a paper bag or papyrus paper, or if you want to just download a family history template, you can do that as well. There is a number of, based off of Sister Tarika's stories, I can draw resources and information as your go-to, and certainly we'll leave those links in the chat session. And also you can visit NzoCalifa Ancestry, hashtag NzoCalifa Ancestry. That's hashtag NzoCalifa, and then off the A, Ancestry. And visit these sites that are there and available to you. Like she says, technology is pouring into us a wellspring of information and resources. She mentioned Ancestry.com. You a 14-day trial that. And then if you wanted to go on for membership, you could, but also your tree can live there as well. You can build your tree offline with Family Tree Maker or Roots Magic. It's important that you have an offline tree too, as well, for your, you know, personal documents, those special documents that you don't want drawn down upon. You also have, she spoke about the temple, and we spoke about Miss Electra Price at the temple, but it's the Oakland Family History Center that's there. And the organization, the African American Genealogical Society of Northern California, have anchored themselves as wisdom gatekeepers and doing Black history, family history workshops and meetings there, and specializing in certain topics that will serve to advance our genealogy. This is at the Oakland Family History Center, you know, right on the Mormon Temple campus. And of course, the African American Genealogical Society of Northern California, you can reach them online and access them. So your local family history societies are beneficial to you as well. Black Pro Gen, you could do that now after you finish watching this. and hashtag Black Pro Gene on YouTube, focused by my sister Nika Smith, who I love. And if you have that burning question about your research, trust and believe that it's in the repository. It's all free. And then you spoke about colonial Virginia, and I'm certain some of those lineages of yours, Sister Tarika, you and I talked about this, is associated with the project of University of Virginia enslaved papers. So I know that that conversation between you and Dr. Shelley is going to be vital. And then also, more notably, most recently, that's come out of the Daughters of the American Revolution branch of women of color, and led by women of color, Black women, women of color who have something to say. And so they've created daughter dialogues, and these are
I can actually join
yes,
the Daughters of the Revolution, but I'm gonna update it to the 60s.
But see, that's why you and Miss Shelley, you and her talk is gonna be over. It's gonna be over, and I'm telling now, Miss Shelley, okay, like that. And I'm talking about Dr. Shelley Murphy for all of you, all who may not know who I'm speaking about, historian, a professor, and all things Virginia, master genealogist. We love her for her long and strong blood, right? Fridays, digging deep with your roots on the Freedmen's Bureau. You can find it at Enslaved Laborers Project, University of Virginia on Facebook. Dr. Shelley Murphy. Be ready. Okay.
Be ready.
Yeah, be ready. So a lot of
and be ready for you too.
Yeah.
And really put the time into establish a good foundation, and that's where that family tree comes in. And just a little hint, when you put a woman's name down or a mother's name, use their maiden name and not their married name.
Absolutely.
And pull out your Bibles. They may have a family tree.
That's right.
Those obituaries, the great grandma or grandma still around, aunties, uncles. We'll put a list. I have a list of questions to ask them. And then, like you said, starting with yourself, you'll be surprised on the records and the information that is in the data that's out there on you from, not only your birth records, but newspaper articles, all kind of, all kind of files that they have on you. So, and you can keep your tree anonymous on Ancestry, which is good. You can keep it anonymous. You can keep it private until until you're ready to go public, or you can also invite somebody as a guest to view your tree. They can't manipulate it or anything, but a little hint that I do now, I see what everybody else has researched.
Yes.
And I write maybe 2 or 3 people every night, and don't take things personal if they don't get back to you right away. It may take them a year. You never know what somebody is going through. Like people like, oh, I'm so sorry for getting back to you. So so you never know what people are going through. But I always try to reach out, especially during the holidays, and they see, oh, this person's consistent, and then give something to get some information back. Don't always be asking, but you have to offer. You got to offer some. So I always offer, like, maybe, well, this is my mom's family that came from, Griffin, Georgia. I know a little bit about that. And we're related on that, or who, and so it'd be nice to find out who our common ancestor is.
Nice.
And so, get it started and look at it as not like a short-term thing, but this is a marathon.
Yes.
Journey. I'm still feel like I'm halfway there. Like, I've gotten to the continent, but even though I found, people from, Nigeria and from Senegal and Ghana, I still don't know how many people, how many ancestors were brought over, or was it one family that got split up? Was it
Yeah.
two sisters who got split up? I know one was a male because of the haplogroup. That his haplogroup didn't end up back in Europe, so that meant that that was a man. And then also with Ancestry, which is phenomenal, it has that DNA mapping and migration patterns, and it could really detect where your ancestors were and how far back. Like, were they there like during the 1600s?
Right.
So that's a little clue that, you know, there were already Africans here. And so whatever you can find, you know, it could be something that it could be a nickname, it could be a name, it could be embedded in those family stories.
Yes.
And so now that the world has stopped and we've been on quarantine, and then we can really think and focus on these things, and then look for these hints of blood memory. Was that question answered? Maybe I should ask the questions so that I can receive the answers. We, you know, as the, you know, and I always think about, reflect on the Black woman as God. Well, what does that mean? Is that we haven't, or we are beginning to find out our attributes and our strengths and our spiritual power. And what I'm so happy that Regina, Queen Regina, that you have experience, and, you know, your experiences in the, you know, these various communities of dance and spiritual communities, and bringing that forth. That's, you know, you've already earned a few PhDs from this rich and phenomenal history in dance. Who's going to teach you that from a book and have not done the dance or the ceremonies, or went through the rituals or the rites of passage, or done the fasting or a vegetarian to see what the outcome is going to be, or work building a farm or a house, or went into the crack houses to get these women out, or, you know, and not ask anything in return, but have a burning question: who am I? What does it mean? I want to find my relatives, my ancestors. I want to know who my names are. So the next time I pour libation, yeah, I can call on William Henry Galt, but I'm not calling on his daddy. I can attach a name to it. He's a Jocatay. So I can say William Henry Galt Jocatay. I can say John Henry Lewis O'Calloway, E.J. Mofo. And I don't know, maybe I'm just tripping, but for me, you know, you know how creators are like.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you tripping, if you tripping, we taking a fantastic voyage. That's what we doing. That is what we're doing. And, you know, and why you may be saying that is because you're not really walking on this planet when you start talking like that, because you in the cosmos pulling down some ancestral material. I attended most recently, and I'm still high from this experience, the Black Spirit Solstice Summit, envisioned by the ever so powerful Iya Unlayo, and with Yeye Feeney, and all of her teachers and elderships that brought forward sacred context, history, practitioners in the sacred arts, roots, ways, herbal culture, Yoruba anatomy, preceding biology, and how it ties into our ancestral presence and the vital need for us to restore it all the way to the foods we eat, to the things we speak, and the way we walk. So we're a unique species here. As my father would say, we're a brilliant species of resilience. And because of the multi-African heritage, that bears inside of us. So it does become a need to be centered in some type of ancestral divination that
Yes.
you would appeal to your guardian spiritual leaders for that, so that you can know your call and your destiny in this lifetime in doing this work, because it'll pull you every which way. But loose, because
Yeah.
it's all in you, right? But for the sake of your timeliness in connecting with your destiny, it's important when you realize that this is your calling and this is your commission as it is, then that is that time when you want to begin to submit yourself to some ancestral divination, so that you can gain your guidance, your gatekeeper, to help you in this process of research. Because once they see light, they're going to be attracted to light, and light is not the only thing attracted to light. You know what I'm saying? And so you want that energy guided so that it serves, feeds you. You're making the right atonement. You're being fed, blessed, and protected, and the right invocations and anointings upon your head, right? And so it's a blessed day that we have these institutions that sustain themselves even in Zoom, right? Equally powerful, equally powerful.
Who would have thought?
Equally powerful. And so I'm so grateful for the constant edification, nurturance, and the feeding from these institutions, and also to a lot of our spiritual leaders in these cultural, and I'm gonna say spiritual traditions, these priestesses and mambos and these master drummers washed in the babalawos and the ifas and the hugans and the amingasis and the mamisis and the Bus, and the wisdom keepers and our elders. Remember in our talks, we have homework for our members, right? And work.
Right.
It's just a few things that are so I'm going to name it, and then you tell them what they got to do. Okay. Talked about. Okay, so the first one we talked about a little bit, we said begin setting up your family tree, or for family historians, choose a lineage for a deep dive of discovery. We talked about that. So maybe you're already a family historian, and you've got your lines in. I've gone pretty far, and I've done this and I've done that. Oh yeah, but we're challenging you to choose a lineage for a deep dive of discovery. Sister Nika Smith says that pick a line, pick an ancestor, act like you're married to them, and let that be the relationship that inspires your further discovery, to break new discoveries upon that lineage. So that's one. The next one was write down blood memory experiences, right?
Yes.
What are yours? Woo! Did we hear Big Sister Tarika speak about so many realized and manifested experiences she knew she drew down from her own ancestors? And honey, they have permeated the atmosphere, hit reality TV shows, and crossed the continent on back and hit one of our most celebrated hip hop artists, and he's bad in his own right, and his movement and his messages, and with the hip hop museum and Rock the Bells. Yeah, we love all day, every day. That's the family. So write down your blood memory experiences. This is a good season to make atonement to do that, right? Journals, sacred journals. The other thing that Yeye Finney on this lady, I just love her. She is just a force who gave us rituals, herbal, from our hoodoo heritage to our Vodou heritage and back again, and everything in between. But it's the seasons, even though you may or may not be feeling locked in at these times, that you cohabitate or you coexist with the plant and the animal kingdom. And there must be a circular, reciprocal relationship with those beings and entities, not just all about you in the house and what you have to do. Get out and smell fresh air and do circular breathing, and come out of the crazy of propaganda on TV. Turn it off or turn it on and do a Zoom living room experience with your family members and have a conversation about family history. How about putting that elder online and listening to her stories, everybody have a question for her. Somebody scribe the story. I entrust to you that inside of their stories are those very clues that will give you your research cue. So do not sleep on the elders because they are walking and woke.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there's that. And then the next, how do you make blood memory happen on call? Now, this is something that Sister Tarika asked in the very beginning. What do you believe? How, where, when, or why? That piece right there. And be guided. Align yourself with divine, spiritual, connected individuals who are on their pathway. No judgment across the board, but you gonna know. Say that personal prayer by the water or inside of a bowl of water, in the woods. Make sure you have a partner. Always have people who are observing you, watching over you, guardianship. Because you know what? When we deal with our ancestors, they weren't living in no buildings like what we know today and being plugged into stuff. They were plugged into the cosmos.
Yes.
There we go. They were using, plants. In the Yoruba, they said the Ede. They were speaking to them and make them heal, wash, restore, protect, expel, and all of that. And then, in alignment with our ancestors or with our animals, I'm going to say they got something to say too. We don't just slaughter and eat them, or some of us don't eat the meat, not like that at all. The fruit can be the meat as well, your plants, the trees, so on and so forth. If we begin to think circular again, we can recenter ourselves to do this work and find the purpose as to why we are even talking about blood memory, family history, family ties, communal ties to the community. And I'm gonna say specifically to my beloved Bay Area African dance and drum cultural community.
Yes.
I love you so much. I love you. I miss you. You are ever so close to me. I need you to know that. And to thee, I'm challenging you to pull out your family history charts and let's forward these lines together, because now we know we African, now we know there's that African that inspires and invoke within us to be up even in this community, still dancing, still drumming, still singing those songs, because they've always belonged to us. It's been part of our birthright, ever so meaningful. And now more than ever, I'm just saying, and I'm here for you to crack your codes.
Yeah. I wanted to add a little bit onto that.
Yes, ma'am.
I predict.
You predict?
I have a prediction.
Okay.
I think, and I'll give it 5 years.
Woo!
I think for all of us who test, and we'll find at least 10 living African relatives. I never dreamed I'd find one. I was happy finding a location and maybe an ethnic group, but to find a living African relative, it just shows a few things that the Ma'afa was not that long ago.
Yeah.
We can line up 4 of our ancestors and we're home.
Yeah.
They still look like us. They do the same work as we are doing. They want to know who we are. They see people who look like us passing by and wonder, maybe they have a lot of keys and a lot of things to share. If we can if we put a little bit of effort and doing this work, our collective stories are absolutely surreal. It's thousands of Octavia Butler's role, in the one. Marimba Ani, Sheikh Anta Diop, Dr. Obenga. Our collective stories are just absolutely phenomenal. And even though you think you ain't got a history, yes you do. And it's all locked up. It's
Yes.
like let's unlock these stories and share with us. We are not alone. Like all the people that Queen Regina was talking about who are doing this work all
Ashe.
across the country.
Ashe.
They are doing this work right now as we speak. Come on, just join this wave, this tsunami of we can actually find out and not just be a loose generalization like, oh, maybe kind of sort of, huh? But no, we know exactly who our ancestors were, where they came from, their names, their locations. And you know what? We can have our family reunions in Africa. You know, we have a Damon ceremony. It will be with that relative we actually found,
Yes.
and who look like us. And so that's, I've been inspired by, I mean, I cried like a baby when I found out. I looked at the percentages. I was like, it's all from Africa. That just, you know, it blew me away. And then I took a deep breath and like, I'm gonna write him and see if he'll write me back. And then I met him last year before, you know, I'm glad there wasn't a pandemic. And he looks just like my dad when he was a young man. And I
Yes.
showed him pictures. I gave him pictures. He said, well, you know, your grandmother looks like all of my aunties. I'm like, okay, I know what line that is now, you know. And so we have that opportunity. We have that opportunity right now. And I want to thank the testing companies and the people who are doing the work behind that. And
Yeah.
perhaps we can develop our own. You know,
There you
they do a
go.
lot of sampling. You know, they do a lot of testing. If you know someone who was directly from the continent, they can test free, and that's going to help us find them. You know, and so yeah, I predict if we, you know, take that faith, that leap of faith, you know.
Yes.
You talking about conspiracy theorists? Like, hey, I was first in line. I ain't gonna get no test. I ain't gonna let them out. Look, you could have a fourth cousin you know nothing about. They
Right.
still go, you know. But you know, but it's that there's been they all along who did not want us to know. That part of our history and our person was not supposed, we're not supposed to have relatives. We're not supposed to have a name. Matter of fact, we're not supposed to even have a last name.
Yeah.
You have no rights. You have no life. You have no history. You know, and so instead of perpetuating that,
Yeah.
and being and living in fear, and we say we trust and we have faith, well, this is a demonstration.
Right.
And look at the tremendous sacrifice our ancestors and the things that they went through,
Right.
that we may survive. And we can't test, we can't put a little bit of spit and you know, and live not in fear of what
Yes.
whoever they, you know, they is, oh, they gonna have my, if we want, then shut up. Don't talk about blackness to me. Don't talk about, you know, we some
She
black
putting out the
women,
switch,
you know,
y'all.
and you don't know your great grandma. You
Yeah.
don't know her story. Your great grandma. You don't know their stories. So how can anyone sit up and, matter of fact, your history teacher, you should ask your history teacher if you're still in school, ask them, you know, excuse me, because I have to memorize and regurgitate all this information you give me. Who is your great grandmother?
Right. I will tell you that one of the most gratifying experiences I've had this year has been involved in the family kinship circles of research this year. Is something that I committed to doing. It certainly was pushed further once we went into this universal timeout. And so there's one that's on Facebook and there's one we meet independently. The one that's on Facebook is primarily a lot of our lineages out of Summerfield, Claiborne Parish, Louisiana. I want to hell up, yeah. Look at you.
Uh-oh.
So I'm going to call out these names, and then, you know, Sister Tarika, I'm going to give you to pass it over for you to close, and please have the final word and message, although all the messages are the final word.
Well,
So I'm talking about the Robinson family lineage. I love you. My cousins, Todd Willis and my cousin Karis Jones, you are the pillars that's standing on the shoulders of many, and thanking all my eldership that fuel this lineage and that fuel this family history research effort. And so we're talking about, and I have a lot, but I'm just going to tell the few majors right now that I hope to pull out. And that's the Bakers, the Bugs, the Calloways, the Hunters, the Robinsons, Welches, the Campbells, the Gullies, the Jones, the Pascals, the Smiley, and the Willis. And then I have I have another family history group, and we meet independently. So I want to thank my cousins LaJuan McIntyre and my cousin Deborah Bryson. Both of them I'm related to two to three times on some lineages. So my double, triple cousin, right? And so we're talking about the Taylors, the Meters, the Metals, the Turners, the Porches, or the Porches out of Arkansas or upper Louisiana. And then we've done some very vital extension research work with O'Bannons and Monks. And this would tie in the Canadays or the Canada or the Kennedys, right? And this would tie into some of the work where you start having to research the backstories of the enslavers, but that's a whole nother story. We want to lift up our ancestors, those who know us and belong to us, and who are sitting honorably upon their ancestral throne in the light. So I, to you all, ask that you make sure that you really pick up, like, charge and commission, pray, and then move forward on that homework that we gave you. Okay, move forward on you. We here for you. I'm here for you. Definitely to my folks in the Bay and beyond, and there is a beyond kinship that I have from here and across the waters, that I'm here for you, you know, as your usher and your steward. I'm honored in this work. And this day right here that marks with, I will be in shared kinship works with my big sister supreme, Tarika Lewis. I know it's ushered by my ancestral lineage. So I want to thank my mama, Patricia Ann Waters-Calloway. I love you. You are the sacred womb. This is where my first dance started and this ancestral work began. Give thanks.
I want to give you thanks, Queen Regina. You have just inspired me with your wealth of information and knowledge, your consistency, your repetition, your love for your family and community. This work is extraordinary. It's difficult, but your persistence is getting results. And sharing this with the community. I know this is going to be the first of many, more workshops to come. And so I want to know that people out there viewing this workshop, tell someone, let us know what you think about the workshop. We're going to do some follow-up workshops, and this is going to be working, like, roll up your sleeve, because this is, like, it's going to be tough. It's going to be difficult. We're going to bump into a lot of things, but when you make these revelations, it's going to bring you to tears. There's going to be some healing happening. It's going to clear out a lot of clutter in your life it's going to give your children some ammunition. So when they go to school, they don't feel like this, but they feel like, I got some folks behind me. Right. Yeah, I know their stories. The history you're speaking of in the history books, my relatives built it.
Yes.
Guess what? Yes. And so there's so much more. And cousin Karen.
Yes.
And I might as well call you cousin too, Regina, because Taylors, Turners,
I saw you.
Callaways,
Saw you.
Kennedys, okay. And you know, and I'm giving shout out to the, you know, the Lewis's
Yes.
and the Parkers and the Reed Brewer branches, the branches that I don't even know about yet. And I want to thank all the new cousins that
Yes.
that I have found, and that and that they are successful and well right now, and that's for all of us, for our health and for our safety, and that we this is really time to reflect on how much wealth we have here in Oakland in particular. Oakland
Yes.
is a very special place where we had writers and musicians and dancers and scholars and scientists, and right here in Oakland,
Yes.
you know, that when things happen around the world, eyes on Oakland.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody get their strengths from Oakland. And I'm reaching out to the Asian communities. They took my symbol that
Yes.
yeah, put it on.
Beautiful.
They put it on their businesses to protect the businesses during the protest. To my homies empowerment, that took the Breakfast with Children program, and they're feeding the community every single week. Consistency and repetitious Cesar Cruz. People are doing the work, this hands-on work, and we need to know why we all are doing this work.
Yes, ma'am.
You know,
Yes.
and so I'm deeply humbled, you know, and awaiting to see what other portal is going to happen now, what other portal is going to open up now for us to go through, because we are moving through another time and space. The planets are aligned right now. That's a whole nother conversation.
And you know we could go there.
Yeah, we can go there.
Yes,
we're moving through something very phenomenal, very exciting, that's going to happen, and I have hope, you know, despite all the scar tissue.
Sure.
That this is even going to bring us more together, because now we really know who we are.
Yes.
And we have help. You have help, you know, and don't mind reaching out. And so do your homework. Ashe.
Asheo.
Asheo.